This is part of what's called the Baalbek Trillathon. There's a little guy with a fez regarding this huge edifice. It's actually a foundation for a huge complex above it. And you can see there's little edges here broken off, that somebody had actually come back to this site after it had been destroyed, if it indeed had actually been built intact, and put these extra stones here and try to actually rebuild it again. But these things are about a level of two-story house, the top, and they're a little bit lighter, about 1,200 tons. And here's a wider picture of the Trillathon. And these are two guys standing above it. Its enormity is stupefying. If you actually get a chance to go here, which you probably wouldn't because the Hezbollah have a big training camp right here now, but if you could actually go here, you couldn't comprehend it. It is just such a large structure. And then above it, you see this incumbent masonry, and then another change above that. And archaeologists want to say that the Romans did it all. But you can see that there's three different styles, at least in the face here. You can see Roman architecture here, and then you can see that are Hellenistic Greek, and then you have the Canaanitic, the Sidonian here, and then who knows who built this. The legends have it that Cain, the first son of Adam and Eve, built it in a fit of raving madness. But that's the legend there. Now, from this area called Sidonia, the knowledge was brought out into Europe by Europa. And really, she's an important person because she was a princess of Sidonia in the Greek myth. And most people don't realize that her name is why we call Europe Europe. But the story goes that she was abducted from the coast of Sidonia, which is now Lebanon, and she was brought to Crete. And if you go to Crete, you can find all these effigies of women with these big eyes. And you wonder what that's all about. Well, Europa actually means wide eyes, or being able to see really, really well. And interestingly enough, Apis and Appa have a common etymology. They are snake and eyes. This is actually an effigy from Crete. Here, a woman with her eyes open as wide as she can have them, and there's eyes on her little crown here, and an owl, which sees really well, in the dark even, and snakes. She's always referred to as the priestess of Crete. Well, Europa, in the myth, came to Crete. She brought this knowledge from Sidonia to Crete. And here, this is a Roman carving of Demeter. Notice the same attitude of the arms and the snakes in the arms. There's definitely some illuminated connections here. And this would be the origin, biblically, the first transfer of heavenly knowledge to a human being by a watcher, which is he, who's also a serpent, interestingly enough. The serpent said to the woman, "You shall surely not die, for God knows in the day that you eat of it, this fruit of knowledge of good and evil, your eyes will be opened," Europa in Greek, "and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And though Satan was in the guise of a serpent here, being subtle, he is an angel from above, from the heavens. That's a transfer of heavenly knowledge to man on the earth. An amazing coincidence. If you look at all these Renaissance paintings of that actual transfer, you'll notice that there's a commonality between this fruit. And that's because when these were painted, there was no such thing as a golden apple. There was no such cultivar in existence. The only golden apple in existence, which had been understood by the Illuminati, those who knew this understanding of the history of where knowledge came from and where it was going, would always paint it in the same way because it was supposed to be a quince. And a quince has a scientific name, Pyrus Sidonia, the fruit of the heavens. And for all you UFO aficionados, a zeta reticuli a gray, another word for a gray, and actually repeating this motif. This is a Greek letter zeta, and in astronomy, the telescope has a reticulum. In other words, a reticle is just the crosshairs in your telescope that you sight a star on. It's interesting that the abductees would say, and even challengers would say, well, these grays call themselves zeta reticulans. They must come from the zeta reticulan system. I submit that they're using this symbology cryptically, inserting these ideas into our subconscious mind, even subconscious culture. We're almost unaware of the fact that these things repeat themselves in a way that's kind of strange to me, because I'm thinking, why would they want to tell us who they are? Because we have a dossier on them. We know what's going on with their past. The world, according to what the Bible says, was destroyed because of their meddling with humanity. Why would they have to continue to use these symbols over and over again? And I submit that it has something to do with the law, the way things work, a hierarchical law. They were made to display things. They're angels. In Hebrew, that's malak. It means to just be a messenger. In Greek, angelos is just messenger. They would give a message from high places to lower places, or go between, from one point to the other. They're designed to do this in this one way, and this one way only. They can't avoid doing the symbolic things that they do any more than we can avoid following the law of gravity. Now, the knowledge of geometry has always been, at least from farthest antiquity, a sacred science. Not just sacred geometry. There's no distinction as you go farther back in time. It's all sacred. And Plato was even able to say that geometry, rightly treated, is the knowledge of the eternal. And why would he say something like that if he just got really smart when we were able to make really good circles and build really straight houses? I don't think it has anything to do with eternity. But it does if you look at it from the idea that it was given from above. And a real good someone studying geometry will understand that. The illuminated fraternities who put such a huge emphasis on geometry understand its origin. That's the major message of geometry to them. And here's how it works. This is how the heavens are even now anchored to the earth. And our first clue is right here in Cydonia, ancient Cydonia, also called Canaan, now called Lebanon, Beirut, a little part of Israel here. It was an actual big place, but it centers around this mountain here, where the first descent of angels came to corrupt mankind with their secret knowledge, according to Enoch. Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians. And then if you look at the name Canaan, in Greek, kunon, dog, Canaan, rule. Interesting connection. Latin, caninus, canis, dog, of course. Cana, reed. Canon, law, measurement. It seems like a system of measuring something, a dynamic standard connected to this lowly guy named Canaan. And this is the key. Canis Major, Sirius, the dog star. Now, the reason this is an important star is because in the northern hemisphere, the northern celestial hemisphere, this star is the brightest. There's no other star brighter than this. Now, it's interesting, too, that this symbol here, to the Egyptians, represented Sirius, and especially this little five-pointed, kind of starfishy-looking star. You could say it's a pentagon sort of thing. It's got 5 points, a little bit off, but it looks almost anthropomorphic. It always has 5 points. This is Isis. And Diodorus Siculus says, and he's explaining Isis here, I am she who rises in the star that is in the constellation of the dog. Well, that connects this symbol with the idea that this deity that's been renowned as a wisdom deity, as an agrarian teacher, in Egyptian cosmology, a teacher of how to be civilized, of how to do civilization things, how to read, write, make cities, do all the things that you need to do to become civilized.